Good afternoon, Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League fans, and welcome to episode 17, the penultimate episode of this season's 2023-2024 mmjhl podcast. I'm your host, Graham the G Show Forsyth. As always, we're brought to you by Mick Cannon Fasteners and Tools. For this one, visit Mick Cannon Fasteners and Tools store locations in Brandon and Winnipeg today, as well as checking out their website at mickcannonfasteners.shop for more information on their brand, as well as Terrico. Thank you to them for sponsoring us, serving Manitoba producers for over 8 years in the agricultural industry. Be sure to check out their website for more details about what they do at terrico.ca. And to goaltenders, your goalie's personal video review service. Be sure to check out their website at gordytumblesongoalies.ca for more information on them. Thank you to them, Terrico, and Mick Cannon Fasteners and Tools for continuing to support us here on the network and for supporting Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League content here on gshow.ca. Unfortunately for us, we're going to be unable to call any of the finals games for the rest of the finals series here on gshow.ca due to insufficient internet coverage with our system. We just have not been able to find a way to make it work. For some reason, at Ab McDonald, it's either they don't have Wi-Fi and they simply get it from somewhere else, or they're doing it without a modem. I don't understand it. If there is Wi-Fi, there's bound to be a router and a modem in that place, but that just hasn't been the case at McDonald. But great thing that Pembina Valley is doing, the Pembina Valley Twisters YouTube channel. They've broadcasted all of their home games this season. They've been able to come on the road so far these playoffs too, to the games that they could be able to broadcast, like the Raiders Junior Hockey Club series that team had. They've been broadcasting all the games from the finals so far from Pembina Valley last night for Game 4, which we'll be showing highlights of that game coming up here in just a moment, as well as the road games at Ab McDonald Arena. And happy to say that I'll be doing some color commentary for tonight's action with their producer over there, their play-by-play commentator, Bentley. So very excited to hop on their broadcast tonight. But just to bring you up to speed, before we get into the first and only guest of this episode, on the bracket, the St. James Junior Canucks officially one win away after a 4-3 win in double OT last night in Morris at the multiplex over the Pembina Valley Twisters. Pembina Valley won the first game of this series 3-2 in Ab McDonald for Game 1 when they played there. And yeah, every game has been separated by one goal. Back-to-back games have gone into OT, been credited to the Canucks. And we actually got some highlights I pulled from Pembina Valley's stream last night to show you guys how crazy last night's game was. We're late into the first period at this point, and Matthew Mason Vandell receives a bad pass, makes work with it, able to bust wide, bust through the Twisters' defense, and feed Ashton Romanuk for his fourth of the playoffs to give St. James the lead. St. James would be up 2-0 after the first period of play. Into the second period, working it around, I believe Brady Whiteley holds it in the zone, and it would go tic-tac-toe to Cale Price for his 7th of the playoffs. St. James with a commanding 3-0 lead. But late into the period, as it's been a theme throughout this series, at the 15:39 mark on the power play, the Twisters would find a way to work it around, find a way to open up this cross-ice seam here. Bergman, quick little pass back to Mike Hepner before finding Derek Weeb for his 4th of the playoffs, cutting the lead down to 2. Later on, shortly after, at the 16:49 mark, just a minute after this, it would be Slade Sutherland who would snipe the Canucks with a bit of bad formation there.
Trying to work that ahead,
of
high,
course.
picks it up.
Giving up the middle of the ice. So it's 3-2 at this point. No more scoring for the rest of that second period. And then we're into the third with a beautiful play by Riley Gertson, little inside-outside, able to send this to the front into the slot for Slade Southern, and he's able to tie this game up at 3 apiece, ultimately sending it to overtime, where the Canucks would do this in double OT after the first OT found no scoring.
Faceoff will come into the Canucks zone with 8:50 on the clock. Shots 43-37 in favor of the Twisters. Canucks, though, controlling off the draw. William, glove down. Matthew Mason-Vandal all out, chips it home. And it's the Canucks taking it here in double overtime. 4-3. And a hard cheer from their fans.
And off of the face-off draw, the Canucks doing all the right things, doing the little things right, and being rewarded with it. A nice little flip up there from Tyrone Willen, who's this team's leading point getter now after last night. Beautiful reception of that by Matthew Mason-Vandal, and a bit of hesitation from Owen Larocque, deciding if he should go out to poke check that. Matthew Mason-Vandal makes him pay. He earned first star last night, rightfully so. He had 3 points in that matchup, and ended up scoring his 5th goal on that OT winner of the playoffs. And yeah, we'll get into a bit of analysis of the series towards the end of it. Rory Neill ended up not recording the point yesterday, but he's been phenomenal. He's the playoff leading goal scorer for the whole league at this point with 11. I had a chance to ask him about what the playoffs have been like so far. This final series, the test that Pembina Valley has given this team. We did this interview yesterday in the morning, so this was before game 4, but I had a chance to ask him about that upcoming matchup that is now passed, as well as this matchup a bit and some other great stuff. So please bring on or join me in bringing on number 4 of the St. James Junior Canucks superstar defenseman Rory Neill in this edition of the mmjhl podcast, brought to you by Make Canada Fasters and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. Enjoy, everybody. We got a true superstar joining the show. Some would argue he's the best in the league. I would argue that as well. It's number 4, Rory Neill, defenseman for the St. James Junior Canucks. Rory, it's been a bit of adversity that this Canucks team faced to start off the finals, losing the first game after going on an 8-game win streak. To get there, the team's bounced back, won 2 in a row, in position to take a potential 3-1 lead here tonight. Take me through what it's been like so far this series, the challenges that PV is given the St. James team.
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, they were 8-0 coming into this series as well, so we knew it wasn't going to be a cakewalk or anything. So we, made some adjustments after game 1. They're a real solid team. They play a real solid team defense. Got some really good goaltending as well. So not an easy team to score on. For us, you kind of get things out of the way by flooding the net sometimes. But that's not really the case against these guys. You kind of have to, play a sound game, play a 200-foot game. But obviously getting the last 2 has been huge for us, and hopefully get one more tonight and take a 3-1 lead here.
For yourself, you've been able to step up in this final series, a 2-goal game in game number 2, which ended up being a huge difference, a goal in every one of the games so far. And you're tied for the team lead in playoffs, 11 goals, 6 assists. Talk about what it's been like for yourself to once again elevate your game at the most important time of the year.
Yeah, it's been good. I think everyone loves playoffs, so it's always good to be able to have that extra gear everyone wants to step into in the playoffs. But our team's just heavy on playing a role. And I know for me, one of my roles on this team's obviously been try to put those points up, try to score as much as I can, help the team. And I think that's just been kind of my goal all series or all playoffs long, is just do whatever I can to help the team. We got a lot of guys not necessarily finding the score sheet as much, but blocking a ton of shots and doing all the right things the right way. So obviously it's been nice to have some personal success, but our playoff success so far has definitely been a testament to our whole team for sure.
For yourself, Rory, we'll talk about the season here going outside of playoffs for just a moment. You put up 64 points in 43 games played in your first year with the team in the regular season, taking the league by storm last year with 90 points in 43 games. But you only played 30 games this year, still a solid point total with 49. But obviously going through some sort of injury. What's it been like for yourself to get back to this level now, where you've moved past, all the adversity you've gone through this season specifically?
Yeah, it's been good. I took some time away throughout the middle of the year this year just for some personal stuff. But overall, it's been good to get back. I always had the intention of coming back and trying to win another one with my boys here. A lot of my best friends are a year older than me, so they'll be aging out this year. So it's just been a big goal of all of ours to try to end it on a high note for those guys, especially, and just doing everything we can for them and for the team to try to win this one more time.
Yeah, and like you said, this team going to be losing, players like Noah Gilbert, Cale Price, Tyrone Willen, Brady Whiteley, just to name a few. But, I think you just spoke about it, right? Having that motivation to win it for these boys. Does that just speak to how close this team truly is, that every single player is buying in once again this year, of course, trying to complete a three-peat?
Yeah, absolutely. I came to St. James 3 years ago now, and ever since I've been there, the last 3 years, it's just been the closest groups of guys that I've ever played with. Like everyone loves each other. Everyone, for the most part, grew up playing with each other, and it's a group of guys that truly loves each other and truly wants to win all for each other. And I think that's been a huge reason why we've been so successful over the last couple of years.
There's a lot of teams, a lot of people that don't want to see the St. James team win again, and it's kind of funny. And I agree with this. Talking with Blair Mooney, that when this team first won it, everyone wanted to see them win. Now this team's kind of the villains of the league, right? And everyone
Yeah.
wants to take down the St. James team. What's it been like for a group, having that in the back of your boys' mind to use this potentially as a motivator this year?
Yeah, no, for sure. Teams definitely don't like us now. There's no fans around the league from anywhere other than St. James, but it's good. There's an added sense of motivation playing that villain role, and the guys talk about it like we love being the villain. We want people to hate us. We want to shove it in your face and take everyone down. So it's for sure an added sense of motivation. And it's good because sometimes you can get caught up, winning two in a row and, you kind of come to the rink expecting to win every night. And it's not as much of a pushing to win every night, but PV is a good team. They've really pushed us. And then that added villain arc is a fun motivation on the side as well.
For this team going back to the start of the playoffs. Of course, 8-0 coming into the finals, but round one wasn't easy in a way. This Transcona Railer Express team that you boys faced outshot you boys in some games. You were able to come through with some close wins, some decisive wins. But what does that speak about this team? Even Blair said it that you got to win in many different ways. Did that speak to how just versatile and diverse this team can go out and be in that aspect, you feel?
Yeah, for sure. Transcona was a different challenge for us. They came with a really physical game plan, really tried their best to take us off our game and play a different kind of game. But it's good, you like Coach Mooney said, in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter how you win, you just have to win. We've been outshot lots of games, which is pretty untypical for us normally in the regular season. But yeah, it's all about scoring one more goal than the other team in the playoffs and coming away with a win. They don't ask how, they ask how many. So it's been our motivation all the time.
Now, I mean, it's the oldest cliche in sports, right? You got to take it one game at a time. But knowing this is your boys' goal to go 3 for 3, going on a three-peat this season, trying to complete it, 2 games away. How as a group is this team taking each game at a time, really trying to focus in on just trying to get that next one to try to go up 3-1 heading into tomorrow night's game 5?
Yeah, it's been a different mindset, I think, every game. Obviously, game one, everyone came in and 2-8-0 teams. You're kind of not too sure what to expect, but you've won the last 2 years, so you're kind of just assuming it's going to go well again. And then they come into our barn and steal one in game one, and everyone's kind of put aside and kind of shocked a little bit. So it was just refocus at practice and just make sure, we're doing all the right things. We're sticking to the little details and just trusting ourselves that if we just play a complete game, we can get it done. And then go into game two in Morris. Obviously, that's a huge game. You don't want to go down 2-0 in a series ever. So we got that one done. And then same thing, coming home, just every game, just, we're at home. We got to get this one, take control of the series. And then I guess the mindset for tonight is you go into their barn and steal one, you can put a real chokehold on this thing. So it's just one game at a time, just kind of a new mindset for every game. And just obviously tonight's a big one. So we're just really focused on trying to get tonight and then hopefully worry about tomorrow when the time comes.
There's been a lot of things, like you said already in this interview, that's motivated the St. James Junior Canucks team this season, but there's been the negatives, right? And obviously a huge one being the passing of Tom Miller. What's that been like, I guess dedicating part of the season to a guy like Tom that's been a past president for this Canucks team?
Yeah. Tom was a guy I wasn't around too much when he was here, but I know he was kind of the past president and our GM now, and all the brass now tell all the stories about him, and how he was a bit of a hard ass, but just a real kind-hearted guy and just wanted the best for his players. And we had a similar situation in my first year with the passing of our equipment manager. And I think every game the message we had his patch on our jersey, and the message was just do it for him. We'd bring his jersey on the bench every game. And obviously, it's not something you want to think about or talk about too much, but it's always something that it's nice to play for those guys and know that they're watching too, and they'd have been proud of this group. So it's definitely an added sense of motivation as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, just from covering and following this Canucks team, just seeing what you boys have been doing, keeping tabs for the past 3 years, it seems like this is a team that doesn't only play for themselves, but plays for the players around them and just the whole St. James Junior Canucks family. Do you feel like there's a sense of added, I guess, power within that, knowing that there's so much support and no matter what it is going wrong, the boys have each other's back. Same with the rest of the Canucks family.
Yeah, absolutely. No team or no one player can win a championship alone. It's always going to be a group effort. You look at all the best teams in the NHL, it's always a team effort. So it's just, yeah, for sure. I think a large part of the reason we've been so successful is just, like I said earlier, we have so many guys that are willing to play so many different roles for the team. A guy might not be scoring every night, but he might be, blocking a ton of shots in the PK or finishing checks in the forecheck, and like all that stuff's so important in the playoffs and matters so much in a long series. So I think the team who's willing to buy in the most is going to be the team that's going to come out on top, and that's certainly been us the last couple of years.
Well, St. James looking to go for a three-peat this season. Hasn't been done since Charles Wood did it back in the 2000s. Rory Neill, a huge part of the St. James Junior Canucks team's success, joined me on this edition of the MMJHL podcast. Rory, best of luck coming up tonight in Game 4, Game 5, and the rest of the series, no matter how long it goes. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on.
Rory Neill, number 4, joining this edition of the MMJHL podcast. Great to have him on. Of course, this segment brought to you by, or the interview brought to you by Make-Cannon Fasteners and Tools in Terrico. As you saw, we'll be showing goaltenders at some point in just a little moment here, but we're going to take a transition. Before we do that, just want to show you how truly close this series has been. It started off with a 3-2 win for Pembina Valley, then St. James goes into Morris, steals one off them 3-2, and St. James has just found that way to finish the right moments in this series in extra time. The past 2 games last night, the longest game of the series, and I'd say the longest game of the season for the St. James Junior Canucks, had that going into double OT, and of course, as we saw in the highlights earlier on, it was Matthew Mason Vandell scoring the OT winner to put the St. James Junior Canucks into this position. Of course, game number 5 going tonight. It'll be on Pembina Valley's YouTube channel at Pembina Valley Twisters. Just search that up and should be able to find it on the YouTube app, or if you're checking it out on the browser through Google, something like that. But we'll be back in just a moment here to show you all the stats from around the playoffs at this point, as well as a bit of analysis from me, the keys heading into Game 5 tonight at McDonald Arena, as the Twisters look to put the three-peat on hold for St. James for the time being, and St. James looking to finish it tonight. You're watching the MMJHL podcast, episode 17, brought to you by Make-Cannon Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. Stick around, everybody. Welcome back to this edition of the mmjhl podcast for episode 17, and our penultimate episode brought to you by McCann Fasteners and Tools, Terraco, and Goaltenders. Goaltenders, your goalie's personal video review service. Once again, we'll want to reiterate, check out their website at gordytumelsongoalies.ca for more information on what their brand does and what they could do for you. If you're a goaltender, might be something to invest in at that. Pretty cool service they got going on there. I'll spill the beans, the tea, the secret. It's basically a one-on-one video Zoom service, and you get to learn from Gordy Tumelson, an ex-Winnipeg Jets 1.0 WHA goaltender that's had decades of goaltending coaching experience at this point. So you're learning from one of the best, and yeah, we've seen the best two teams in the MMJHL go at it so far in these playoffs. Just taking a look at the scores once again. I mean, they've all been one-goal games. The past two games have gone to OT. Both teams have showcased really good defensive play at points in this series, but at other points we've seen some faltering within these systems, and some bad puck management from both sides. But taking a look at this game coming up here tonight, it's actually been Pembina Valley that has been out shooting this St. James Unit Canucks team on average, at least in the past 3 games at that. St. James ended up out shooting Pembina Valley in that first game, and funny enough, in this series, the team that scored first has gone on to win. Pembina Valley struck twice in that first period of game number 1 of this series, and really looked like St. James was off their game. But since then, you've seen a lot better back pressure from them, a lot better back checking, and more numbers to defend in their defensive zone. Taking a look at the standings, I mean, the highest powered offensive team in the league, the St. James Unit Canucks, running away in the goals for category. Pembina Valley, they only had about 10 goals against heading into this series, so that number is definitely risen for themselves. A big difference in this series too, I feel like heading in, was the discrepancy, the difference between the power play percentages for both teams. Pembina Valley, of course, getting on the board to get things started with their scoring last night on the power play, but overall, St. James has done a pretty good job within these finals in limiting that team on the man advantage. For the stats leaders, we look at it, Tyrone Willen led the league in points for back-to-back seasons, and looks like he could very well be on his way to finishing the playoffs as the postseason points leader. Rory Neill, absolutely sensational postseason for himself. 11 goals as a defenseman, that's almost a goal per game. The 17 points, ranking 1 behind his teammate Kel Price, has been a big-time player, and look at that from Tyler Rubin. He's still in the top 5 to this day, even though his team ended up going out in 7 games in the first round. We'll take a look at the goal scorers. No one's been better than Rory Neill so far. The closest ones to catching him at this point are his teammates in Kel Price and Tyrone Willen, but I have a feeling that won't happen, and we see Rory coming away with the goal scoring title in these playoffs. As for the assist leaders, Tyrone Willen, no one has been better than him out of active players in this result here, with 12, tied with Tyler Rubin in that aspect. We'll see if Tyrone can become the outright leader tonight and moving forward in this series for however long it will keep going. But as for the goaltenders, I mean, Pembina Valley, we talked about it already. I've talked about it already. The best goaltending tandem in the league, and you can see by the numbers there. It'll be interesting to see if Larocque or Enns gets the start tonight. I could very well see them going with Logan Enns. We'll have that confirmed tonight on the Pembina Valley Twisters YouTube channel. But Noah Gilbert, what a career he's had, looking to win his 3rd straight championship and cap it off with potentially only 1 loss, a .933 save percentage. There's been no shutouts for Gilbert. He did let in 3 goals yesterday, but this team ends up being outshot. They give up 43, and he saves 40. I mean, not much more you can ask for from, your goaltender, who has been the equivalent of a franchise goaltender and has been elite consistently throughout his career. But getting into, I guess, the keys for tonight's game before we end things off here for this episode. The closeout game is always the hardest to win. But when St. James has had the opportunity to close teams out in the past 2 seasons, they've done that in Game 5 that they won back in the Iceplex to win, the first championship out of the back-to-backs that they have. They end up sweeping the St. Vital Junior Victorias in the semifinals, or in the finals last year, sorry, in St. Vital. And this time around, just like back in 2021, 2022, they'll have a chance to do it on home ice, but a bit more special than that. They didn't have a chance to play at the Civic Center, I guess it's called Ab McDonald, which is the newly improved Civic Center, as they, I believe, did some renovations on it. From what I've heard, don't quote me on that. That's kind of just what I heard. I guess I haven't been paying attention to the news as frequently there. Yeah, I think it is a newly renovated arena, but they didn't close out, right, back in 2021, 2022 there. They did it at the Iceplex, which is now called the Hockey for All Center, so could be a special moment, taking that into consideration tonight for the St. James Canucks team. Talked about it heading into the season. In terms of returning players to the roster, they had the most at that. I mean, they were ready to go more than any team to start off this season as other teams started to get adjusted into their own systems. We saw St. James lose more, but this is a team that's found different ways to win. They've done it all playoffs long, right? They were outshot in the majority of the games against the Transcona Railer Express, and what they've relied on is just really good defensive structure in their own end, and relying on Noah Gilbert to make the saves. And for the most part, when they've had success in this series, those two things have come true against the Pembina Valley Twisters. The one thing that I feel like St. James needs to clean up the most in their game, honestly, is simply the work from the defensemen. You've seen, and you saw it on the highlights, most of those goals that happened last night against the Pembina Valley Twisters for Pembina Valley, they took advantage of mismanagement of the puck from the defenseman from the St. James Junior Canucks. Sometimes, a bit hesitant with the puck and maybe panicking a bit, because Pembina Valley has showcased a very good forecheck that has also led to some problems on the back end for St. James. So I think what I'd like to see from St. James tonight in terms of them trying to close out is their defensemen just taking better care of the puck, not looking to force it up ice all the time, right? Maybe looking to retreat a bit more in your own end to make an extra D-to-D pass to open things up a bit more, because they've shown that they can open up this Pembina Valley Twisters team. And for Pembina Valley, I'd say that their defensive details have been pretty darn good, but there's been times where, for most of it, when the goals have happened, they've let a player get free and they haven't been as tight on coverage, or they have 3 or 4 players caught on one side of the ice. St. James moves it to the side of the ice where no one's really there to cover, and they're able to work it around. Just too skilled to give them those opportunities, Pembina Valley to St. James. And I think for Pembina Valley, another huge thing for them to extend this series again is just, of course, having that consistency within your game. It's tough to do that throughout a 60 minutes, I know, but ramping up that consistency, having an even higher gear. Look to continue to do good things on the power play like you did yesterday with the good puck work, not forcing things to the inside when they're not there, keeping it on the outside and waiting for moments to open up like we saw in that cross-ice pass to Eric Weeb. But he's had a few goals in this series. I think the best player has to be Pembina Valley's best player outside of their goaltending, as he has been all season long and throughout these playoffs for the most part, and Merrick DeGrave. How are the big-time players for Pembina Valley going to step up compared to St. James? If history tells us anything, we're probably going to see St. James top-end players step up more. But if this is going to be the time for the Pembina Valley Twisters, you need Merrick DeGrave to step up. You need solid goaltending once again, and honestly, you need to get a bit more tighter in your own end. You got to clean up those defensive details, because they weren't exactly there all the time yesterday, and little details has been what's won these games for the St. James Junior Canucks team and executing at the right moments. Heading into this series, I know I said that Pembina Valley, they've been, thriving off of opportunistic chances at that. For most of this series, they've controlled, a lot of the play for most of the time. It's how can you find ways to do what St. James has done to you, which is, spread around the offense in your own and spread around the passing, or do something to really get the St. James Junior Canucks team out of their structure. And I think that Blair Mooney's done a wonderful job throughout this series in terms of making those adjustments. We saw even at points St. James giving up the middle yesterday, right? That would end up costing them some goals. We saw that in the first game, a bit lazy, a bit too much puck watching. The team that puck watches the most tonight, no matter what team it is, I think is going to come away with the loss. So, yeah, that's my thoughts for tonight's game, for Game 5. Let me know in the comments, I guess, what you guys are thinking, who you think is going to take the finals this year. Do you think that St. James is going to win it tonight, or do you think Pembina Valley extends this series to Tuesday, which that would be the next game for game number 6? Pembina Valley, the Twisters, they will have it all on their YouTube channel and game 7 as well, but game number 6 would be played at 8 p.m. 6:30 p.m. as the puck drop for tonight. I'm hoping to be on the call on color with Bentley, the play-by-play commentator, the host for the Pembina Valley Twisters. Special thanks to him for kindly inviting me to be able to do this. I'm really pumped and hoping I can, do good at this color commentary thing. I've been doing play-by-play all season long, and it is a different job. It's more of an analysis. That's what the job is of a color commentator compared to a play-by-play commentator who, of course, more so narrates the play and stuff. So I hope I can help him out and we can bring a really high-level stream to you all tonight. Pembina Valley Twisters, their YouTube channel is where you can find it, with puck drop starting at 6:30 p.m. tonight. But I want to thank you all for tuning into this edition of the mmjhl podcast, and for my guest Rory Neill for coming on the show. Going to be a treat to watch him and the rest of the St. James Junior Canucks tonight, and watching what type of response this Pembina Valley Twisters team has. Tough one. They'll be playing on a back-to-back with elimination, a very huge possibility tonight. Will it be St. James who three-peats, or will it be Pembina Valley who keeps things alive? Guess they just got to play the games for us to find out. Special thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning into this one, and to Make Cannon Fasteners and Tools Terrico and Goaltenders for sponsoring another edition of the show. I said this is the penultimate episode of this podcast for this season. We'll be returning for what could be our finale at some point this week, depending on how long this series goes for. At that, but yeah, thank you for tuning into this penultimate episode, everybody. Can't wait to be back this week to bring you the possible finale of the mmjhl podcast for episode 18. But until then, I've been your host, Graham the G Show Forsyth, giving you the salute, peacing out, and waving so long, everybody, on this late Sunday afternoon. Take care.